All right, welcome to an amazing interview this afternoon with Mark Rosenberg, a partner at Tartar, Crinksey and Drogan. With that, Mark, I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Laura. It's nice to see you. I am a partner in the firm's intellectual property department. A lot of my work focuses on representing Amazon sellers who are having intellectual property issues on Amazon, as well as intellectual property owners who believe that their rights are being infringed by Amazon sellers.
Awesome. And today we're really going to talk about and get deep into what you can and cannot do as a brand when it comes to unauthorized sellers. Unauthorized sellers are a huge pain point for brands, not only on Amazon, but in general, because there's risk of them selling either expired inventory or it can just degrade the brand overall. So to start with one of our first questions, how do the gray areas within Amazon's policy and guidelines allow unauthorized sellers to get away with selling another brand's product without their permission?
So it's gray in the sense that Amazon does not want to get into disputes over whether or not a seller on the Amazon marketplace is authorized or not authorized.
Mhm.
All Amazon cares about is whether or not the product is genuine, with certain exceptions, with products that can't be sold on Amazon because certain categories are banned from Amazon.
So then what can brands do to either stop or prohibit these unauthorized sellers from selling their products?
So it's two steps. It's first find out how these unauthorized sellers are getting the products in the first place. And that goes back to leakage. More often than not, it's the authorized distributors who are selling to the Amazon sellers, which they shouldn't be doing in the first place.
Mhm.
And the brand owners need to be looking at their distribution contracts and making sure that those contracts have limitations on who the distributor can and cannot sell to.
And just diving in a little bit deeper into enforcement and what you can do legally and maybe what you can't do. What's your opinion on cease and desist letters?
The answer is it all depends. So a brand owner can stop a seller from selling a non-genuine product. And what does non-genuine mean? You hit on one of the issues before. So it has to be material. Is it materially different than the brand owner's product? And materially different can be expired expiration dates. It can be lack of a warranty and lack of quality control. Also, if the product is adulterated, whether the product or its packaging. For example, if the seller scratches off the product code or a serial number, so the product can't be traced back to the distributor, that is no longer a genuine product. If the distributor, or I'm sorry, if the Amazon seller is putting a sticker on the packaging that covers over a product warning or an ingredient label that has to be there, that is materially different. So it's really on a case-by-case basis. But on the other hand, if you're selling a product that really doesn't have any of these issues, let's take a 5-pound vinyl-covered dumbbell, which is about as simple a product as you can get. It's very hard to say that they're selling a non-genuine product.
And then what about packaging? So we've run into this several times where a brand of ours will redo their packaging. They do this big rebrand rollout. And then there's these unauthorized sellers selling the product in the old packaging. Would that then be considered grounds of saying that they're not selling authentic or genuine products?
If you're talking years later, I think you can make a good argument that that's no longer a genuine product. That you're selling old product and it's hurting the brand image because you're selling using outdated packaging.
And what are some of the success stories you have, and what was your approach in going about and stopping some of these unauthorized sellers for your clients?
So I've represented both sides of this issue, both the brand owner and the seller. And usually it's when we've been successful, and cease and desist letters do work. It's when the seller has done something to the product. that, for example, they put on a different UPC code on with the sticker on the packaging, and the packaging covered up the product ingredients. It was cosmetics.
Mhm.
And that's important information because people have allergies to some of these ingredients. And so we put them on notice, and we actually, and the cease and desist letter actually didn't work. Is what worked is reporting to Amazon this was a counterfeit product.
And did you know that it was no longer considered genuine because your client ordered the product and then saw that it had been covered up?
Yes,
Okay.
and sent us photographs, because I've been on the other side of the coin, where the seller is getting taken down, accused of selling counterfeits. Not only is selling genuine product, is being drop shipped from the brand owner's authorized distributor.
Got it.
And that is really that is an unfair trade practice and sets the IP owner up to get sued.
And so I think where we've run into issues is that whole unfair trade practice area. And it still does seem it's quite a gray area. And I mean, what would your advice be to brand owners to find that healthy middle ground of making sure that they're compliant of what the law allows and what it doesn't, but then also being able to take down those sellers that are having the client or the brand lose the buy box, maybe some price erosion and all these other issues that come with the territory?
So the first thing is to make sure your allegations are accurate. Buy the product. Make sure if you're going to say it's counterfeit and there's nothing wrong with it and it's actually, you can't do that. It's also make sure that you can make a claim that there are material differences between the genuine product and then what's being sold on Amazon. And often that comes down to quality control. And the standards of what the brand owner needs to have for quality control are not that high, but they have to be legitimate standards. The brand owner has to follow it itself and require that its distributors follow them. Now, for example, if the brand owner says, "Well, I sell 5-pound weights in vinyl covered weights, and they have to be refrigerated by distributors," that's not going to work.
Yeah. And just to clarify, if a unauthorized seller is selling genuine products, can you still send them a cease and desist letter, or is that what puts you at risk?
No, you can always send a cease and desist letter.
Okay.
It's what you do next. Just saying stop selling, it can always be ignored.
And in terms of cease and desist letters and best practices, are you sending these letters both digitally and physically?
We can get the address. It depends on what addresses we can get. We try as many ways as possible. So if we can get an email address and a postal address, we'll send it both ways. Just to prevent someone from saying, I don't know, I never received it.
Okay. Have you dealt with any cases where it's like a whack-a-mole situation where you're able to get rid of an unauthorized seller and then all of a sudden 2 to 3 more pop up? Yeah, all the time, right? We've seen this many times. How do you go about doing that? Do you eventually get to a point where you're like, okay, let's just start identifying sources, or does it still make sense to be chasing down these various resellers?
If you can get them taken down from Amazon, it's just best to do that, and just by filing a notice of infringement, because if they're not following quality control standards, or they're selling outdated product, it can hurt the brand if it comes back, if somebody has a bad experience and that bad experience gets publicized.
Got it.
So we tell them, keep doing it. We won't do it every single day, but periodically we'll do reviews, and when we see it, we take it down.
And then let's say you're a brand, they're just starting out and they're getting into these distributor contracts. What can brands do from the very beginning, or maybe even when they're renegotiating their contracts with these distributors, to protect themselves against this type of leakage?
It's to have specific provisions on who the distributor can and cannot sell to. And I would also put in the contract that if that provision is violated, it's grounds to immediately terminate the distribution agreement.
And then to switch gears a little bit in the arena of distribution leakage and unauthorized sellers is, of course, price erosion and the devalue of a brand that can have. Are there ways that brands can really enforce MAP on Amazon?
Sure, if it's an authorized seller.
Mhm.
If it's not, there's really nothing you can do about it,
Yeah.
except go back and say this is not a genuine product and get the product taken down. But if it's, going back to the 5-pound dumbbell situation, it's going to be really hard to enforce that. Again, because the minimum advertised price is really an agreement between an authorized seller and the brand owner. And it's not an agreement between an independent seller on Amazon and the brand owner.
Then what about Amazon brand registry protection? There's always the rumors, and I've seen cases of this where brands can actually be gated on Amazon, where you have to be authorized to actually sell that brand. Have you had experience with that? What have brands been able to use in making cases so that they can be brand gated on Amazon?
In my experience and what I've also read about it, it's brands that are really frequently counterfeited. Good old-fashioned counterfeiting that somebody's making Nike sneakers in a factory in China that's completely not authorized, or in a New York City warehouse.
And then I guess, are there any other best practices you would like to share for brands that are either starting out or are looking to clean up their unauthorized sellers on Amazon? What they can change, what they can do better so that they can own the buy box and they can own the brand experience on Amazon?
So it's several things. First of all, if to the extent possible, put some kind of code on your product or packaging so you can trace back where it came, what distributor it came from. Because that's the ultimate source of the leakage. Then have good quality control standards. And again, they don't have to be that high, but as long as they're genuine and you're being followed and you're requiring distributors to follow them, you can then make the argument, the brand owner can make the argument that the Amazon seller is not complying with them. And because of that, it's a materially different product and it has to come down. And Amazon will take it down because it's deemed a counterfeit. It's set up that those are the type of best practices. The other best practice is when sending a cease and desist letter, be careful. And also when doing takedown notices on Amazon, be careful, because you better be, particularly in a takedown, you better be right. Because if you're not and you take down a seller's listing, the brand owner now is potentially on the hook for an unfair business practice, tortious interference with contract, libel, and other claims, and it can cost a lot of money. And representing sellers, the other thing is getting the listing back up when the brand owner has withdrawn the complaint is not always so simple. Yes, the brand owner has withdrawn the complaint, but just because of the machinations of how Amazon works to get the tag of infringement off the ASIN is often really difficult.
Wow.
And again, that goes back to, you better be really careful when you send a cease and desist letter, or more importantly, a takedown notice, because if you're wrong, you could cause serious damage and you may be liable for that.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This was extremely valuable. Hundreds, if not thousands of dollars worth of insight here from a lawyer himself. If anyone watching this video today would like to reach you and learn more about your services, where's the best place for them to reach you?
You can call me, 212-216-1127, or send me an email at mrosenberg, Rosenberg, @tarterkrinsky.com. That's TARTERKRINSKY.com.
Awesome. And we'll put that contact information near the comment section. So thank you again.
Thank you, Laura.